Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and I'm finally reviewing Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. You think I would have talked about the film by now, and actually, technically I have. Because I did a one change to each Star Wars film and a 3 reasons why each Star Wars film is not the worst YouTube short series. So I did talk about this film, but I've never done a proper review of A New Hope. And considering just last week I did a re-review of Rogue One following the completion of Star Wars Andor, I figure it's time to get into the rest of the Star Wars films, and we might as well begin with the film that began it all in 1977, Star Wars, and that's what it's called. It was literally just called Star Wars back then, though George Lucas has renamed it to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and also a special edition. Unfortunately, I have yet to really see the original theatrical cut, but I do have a version that's extremely close on VHS. Unfortunately, I did not watch that version. I just watched the version that was on Disney+. So, to begin with, I want to address one thing. The scene with Han talking with Jabba is not needed. That scene really is not needed. Everything that was in the greeter scene was included there. So we don't need both scenes, one or the other. And I think the greeter scene is better because Han shot first. No matter how the editing may make it look, Han shot first. Additionally, I do think the scene where Red Leader says that he knew Luke's father should have been kept in. That should not have been removed after the theatrical release. Mainly because I think it's fine. It's fine that people know who Anakin Skywalker was and that he was a Jedi. It's just that they are not supposed to know that he became Darth Vader. That's the thing that people don't know. So it's fine if people know who Luke's father actually is, as in Anakin Skywalker. And also, the scene with Biggs would have been nice if, Luke somehow mentioned Biggs earlier. The deleted scene with him is not necessary, but would have been nice to kind of set that up maybe a little bit better. But those are nitpicks, because really, this is a great film. And it started there, had to have been great. But as we know, George Lucas was not necessarily optimistic about its reception, but turns out we loved it. And it's still a really solid film, even despite the special edition and the changes that George Lucas have made to it. Despite that, it's still a very solid film. I will say, if you only exposure to Star Wars so far had been Andor and Rogue One, you'd be like, who are these characters? What do they have to do with the characters we saw before? Yeah, we saw Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One, but who's this Luke guy? Who's this Ben Kenobi guy? Who's this Darth... Oh wait, Darth Vader's that guy in that hallway scene. Okay, you would not have context for a lot of these characters, but I got to say one thing. Because of Rogue One, Leia is flat off lying in front of Darth Vader, who, unbeknownst to either one of them, they're related. Neither one of them know that at this time. But seriously, she just basically ran away from Scarif with the plans, and she has the gall. And I have to say, it's quite brave, confident of her, the gall, to basically flat out lie in front of Darth Vader, the Emperor's enforcer, and say, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm just on a diplomatic mission. And he literally witnessed what's going on. It makes that scene just all the more badass, for lack of a better term, really. Additionally, Rogue One and Star Wars Andor put the event that we see in A New Hope into even more context. We already knew that to a certain extent. A lot of the base stuff we needed to know was covered in the crawl. But an important context is Leia's decision to return to Yavin knowing the Empire is tracking despite Han's dismissiveness. She knows how the rebellion basically won't act unless forced to, and so she forces them to actually confront the Death Star. And also, too, it's the wise choice to not put any additional systems at risk. Very smart on her part. I also have to say, when she tells Tarkin that as the Empire continues to tighten its grip, that most systems will slip through the cracks, that very much reminds me of lots of the sentiment echoed in Star Wars Andor with Namek, with Lucid, the idea of as the Empire tightens its grip, people will start to feel the pressure. It won't be like a frog in in a pot that's slowly boiling, it would be like a frog that's in a pot slowly boiling and jumping out when it realizes it's getting too hot. Very, very clever there, and I really did like how basically the sequels, but not the sequels, if you know what I mean, basically put a lot of this stuff into additional context. But of course, the story of Star Wars: A New Hope is not just the political story that is given additional context in Rogue One and Andor. It's also very much a character story, mainly for Luke and Han. Leia does not get too much character development in this film, but Han and Luke, yeah. Han, well, he kind of still is a bit selfish at the end, but he does come around. He does realize that, yeah, he probably should help the rebellion out to defeat the Empire. Basically, he starts going for the money, and then he ends up making the right choice anyhow, without considering the reward or anything like that. I also like to think Chewbacca told him, hey, this would be the right thing to do. You should do the right thing. And Han deep down knows it's the right thing and listens to Chewbacca. But that's just my little fan theory there. But Luke, his story, his character development is more on display. He wants, to seek adventure and all that, and he does get his adventure. Yes, he loses his mentor, but he meets new friends along the way, and basically comes out a hero. He goes from basically a know-nothing. He basically goes from a nobody farmer to hero of the rebellion. And yes, in Star Wars, he's from the son of Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one, yada yada. But that was not George Lucas's final intention when he was making the film. That's something that came out later on as he further developed his story and made the other movies. And really, Luke was just a farm boy who was seeking adventure just like his father, and had a chance to find adventure, and not just find adventure, but go on a journey to help others. There's a scene where Leia asks Han if anything matters to him besides money, if he actually cares for anyone besides himself, and Luke truly says, I care, showing that he, a contrast between him and Han at that stage in their character development, but also showing that Luke, I would say, him being a hero, he never sought out to be a hero. But he was a hero because that was the right thing to do, because he cared about others. At least that's how I interpret that scene. But there is one more thing I want to discuss before I end my review. That being the final award ceremony. So when George Lucas was making A New Hope, he had no idea that he would, in 3 years, be releasing The Empire Strikes Back. So this ending of A New Hope, the ending of Star Wars, was made to be a capstone. The heroes of the Battle Yavin are honored. Now, I will have to say, why didn't Wedge get a medal? Why didn't the Y-Wing pilot too? There's 2 different ones in Legends and Canon. They have different versions, but why didn't he in Legends and she in Canon get a medal? Why didn't Chewbacca get a medal? Well, later Star Wars stories have answered some of those questions. Chewbacca got a medal in a private ceremony, and it's revealed that Wookiees don't put stock into physical medals, which I really liked how they decided to justify Chewbacca not getting a medal by saying it's his culture, and it shows that the rebels value his culture and respect his cultural beliefs and practices. I really love that in retrospect, but it would be nice if maybe in the film. But here's a good headcanon for why we didn't see Wedge and some of the others. Easy. Han and Luke and Chewie, they were at the back of the line, and they were waiting for their moment to enter. Because they were the final ones. That's my theory, at least. Because the idea of award ceremony, probably more than one rebel who was honored, but they got the ending honor. But that's just a little headcanon theory thing going on, though. But really, the point of that scene is showing that the rebels are triumphant, that the Empire is defeated. Yes, the Empire strikes back later on, but we didn't know that when this movie came out. We did not. And therefore, because there was no firm intention to make a second movie, George Lucas had to have it end on a satisfying final victory note, so that way we, the audience, would be satisfied. And that is what he accomplished. And to end out my review, I just have to say, Star Wars: A New Hope, it's not the first Star Wars film I saw, but it is the quintessential Star Wars film. It has the messages of trusting in the Force. It has the message of being a good person makes you a hero. It has the message that evil can and will be defeated, but will commit atrocities until it is defeated, and you have to stand up against it. There's more we can talk about, but that's what the comment section is there for. So let's keep the discussion going. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always.